complicated, just possibly the site of crucifixion where we're going up to now, then the garden, which I'll talk to you about, and then the tomb. And actually, in fact, it's probably good you come at this time, though we're a bit under pressure, for we close at 5:30 or thereabouts, because the tomb area is jam-packed. So let's walk up. This is a cross-section where east to Jericho, north to Damascus. Damascus, of course, is in the news. Not known for their gentleness, were known for crucifying people at busy places. They wanted to get the message across to any rebel, anybody against them, don't mess with us, otherwise this is what happens to you. So it was known that they did this in public places. And they also did it not high up on green hills, though it's a lovely poetry. There is a green hill far away without a city wall. I don't know if you know that hymn, or the Old Rugged Cross. The first one is written 35 miles from where I live by Mrs. Alexander, the wife of the bishop, and she wrote it for her Sunday school class. But the Romans, they crucified along the road, so that anybody passing by not only saw what happened, but they had a chance to eyeball the criminal. And they weren't always nice, the people that came along, and they hurled insults and maybe spat. And Jesus, if you remember, they had all sorts of taunts to him in the scriptures, it's written. Now, this is a bus station now. But if you look across over here, there is, this was taken in the late 1890s, there is what was thought to be Skull Hill. Now, it was known as Skull Hill for a while, but an American had a flat, or a bit over here on the city wall, and he had a visitor who was General Gordon, who was a famous English soldier staying with him. The name of the American was Spafford, and he wrote a famous hymn. It is well with my soul. I don't know if you know the hymn. When peace like a river attendeth my way. But General Gordon looked out and he said, you know, they say that the Holy Sepulchre is the place. But he said, I think we need to think again. He said, that looks very like the place of a skull to me. I wonder, is it possible that in fact Christ was crucified here? There was no bus station here in the 1800s, for obvious reasons. And General Gordon began to think about this. Now in John chapter 19, verse 41, it says that nearby Golgotha, which is a place of a skull, and Calvary is Calvarium, is Latin of the skull, nearby there was a garden. And lo and behold, there is a garden here. We're not trying to say that the other site is wrong. We're just saying, go with what it feels like. Not only was this a place of stoning for Jews, do you remember Stephen was stoned? The way of stoning was that someone was pushed over a precipice, and if they didn't die, they threw stones at them. Just imagine the story when Jesus, in his hometown of Nazareth, in Luke's Gospel, he quoted Isaiah. He unrolled the scroll, he found the place, and he said, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he's anointed me. And he went right through, and eventually they got cross with him, because he had said that God didn't send Elijah to Israeli or Jewish widows. Do you remember the story? And they took him to the edge of a cliff to throw him down. There wasn't a Muslim cemetery on that cliff in those days, but it wasn't this cliff either. But do you see what I mean? This was a place of stoning. This was a place, it's thought, that Stephen died. This maybe was a place where Zechariah died. And so it's a grim place. It's not a nice place. I don't know whether you can see or not. It's more difficult for you, but there is a large cave up here, which is in fact a cistern. it was for water. And the front of it has fallen out. Do you see that? Jerusalem, which doesn't have rain for 6 months, or thereabouts, needs to retain water. Jerusalem's full of cisterns. We're going to see one of the third largest one in East Jerusalem in a minute or two. Jeremiah referred to cisterns that were broken, didn't hold any water. So just imagine big bits of Jerusalem dug out that were maybe good at it to get water and hold water. But this was a grim place, and I want you to think in terms of two things. When Jesus died, Joseph of Arimathea had a tough time. I don't know how quick you women are at shopping. Generally not. But he had to go and buy linen. Jesus died at 3 o'clock, and they had the Sabbath starting at 6, and he had to get, Joseph of Arimathea had to go to beg the body of Jesus. And he went to Pilate. Pilate said he could be dead already, but he had no cell phones in those days. Had to get the centurion. Is he dead? Yes, he's dead. Can I have the body? He bought linen. He came out to testify to the fact that Jesus was somebody that he wanted to do something for. Though he was dead, he wanted a witness to his association with Jesus. And Nicodemus the same. And Joseph hadn't voted for his death. You imagine then two men carrying the blood-stained body of Jesus wrapped in linen, and the blood and the gore through a garden. And who else was there? Why, there were two women. Two Marys. The sort of Marys, Magdalene, the mother of Joseph, who followed him down from Galilee. The sort of faithful women that would have said, I'll do your washing for you. Or you haven't really taken time to eat. Or whatever. And faithfully they followed the cortege. In my view, and in the view of the Gospels, where it says, later on, I'll show you where I think it might be, they watched where they laid him. So just imagine as you're walking now through the garden, because nearby there was a garden, and in it a tomb. So we're going from a place of gore and vengeance to a place of peace and respite. And if you like to follow on down that way, along there, and turn here, and it doesn't rain for about 6 months of the year. But if you look down here when you're finished, there is a cistern, the third largest cistern in East Jerusalem. Okay. Full of water. Now you're in a garden where you need water. And you imagine it's now, you see, you're all from America, so you don't want to hear about meters. This is feet, 30 feet and 30 feet. Okay. It holds 220,000 gallons. I don't know whether your gallons are different from ours or not. 220,000 gallons. That's a lot of water. And we use it for this, man.
Just to give you a comparison, the swimming pool at camp is 80,000 gallons.
This is 220,000.
Oh wow, 3 times.
So you could probably fish in this. The important thing is this, that if you are going to run a garden and have a garden, for commercial purposes, you need water. Now, we don't know who owned this garden. And later on, I'll show you a wine press in it. So it's possible that it was a vineyard. Possible. They would need water. Of course they would. Water for the vines. And whoever had this and got this dug out was obviously a wealthy man. Somebody who could afford to get a lot of men digging out a cistern. It's only an idea. But perhaps Joseph liked his garden. Perhaps Joseph, in getting this done, it cost him a bit less than he thought. And he thought, you know, my wife and myself were getting on a bit, you could do a tomb for us while you're here to the workers. I don't know. Don't have an idea. Because the tomb is hewn out of rock, and the scripture is very clear about that. A new tomb hewn out of rock in the depths of the earth. What? When people came to Jesus and said, "Do us a miracle," he said, "The only miracle you're going to get," this is in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 12, is the miracle of Jonah. Jonah was 3 days in the big fish. The Son of Man will be 3 days in the heart of the earth, he said. Okay. That was the miracle of the resurrection was what he was saying to them. You're going to get a miracle, just be patient. And so this place needed water. Maybe it was a garden with a vineyard, maybe commercially, I don't know. We don't know what size it was. There were buildings here then. This garden was discovered in the late 1800s when it was owned by a Greek man who was looking for water. But he didn't discover the cistern. He discovered the tomb. And when he discovered the tomb, he didn't want it. And the garden then was found by some people who did want it. And an advertisement was put in the London Times for money to form the Garden Tomb Association, and it was bought. The garden was then bought. Interestingly, a lot of the money was put up by a woman called Louisa Hope. As often happens whenever you do the first round for money, it wasn't enough. And she was touched again and came up with more. So the garden was bought at the end of the 1800s, and bought, and this association that owns it now, there is no charge obviously for coming in or guides or anything like that. It obviously lives off subscriptions. That's the only commercial I'm doing. But those of us who volunteer here, we start at 6:30 in the morning, clean the place, make sure the birds haven't been too active during the night on the seats, and the loos are cleaned, etc. We're happy to do that. There's lots and lots of things, including a court case that's going on, because this wall the Muslims have put up was illegal. And the difficulty is they put this up to extend the graveyard, and then they want to put a lot of soil into it. So we're fighting this particular battle at present. So if we would walk down now, I'll lead the way. You'll see the